Discover the surprising truth. My daughter sold our $3 million ranch, handing me just $16,000 to live on. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the pasture, a place that had felt like home until that fateful call. Jack Thompson gripped the phone tightly, his heart racing. Amanda, his daughter, distant and silent for years, reaching out with a summons he never expected. The ranch, their legacy, felt like a tightening noose around his neck. How had it all come to this? Memories surged through him, nights under the stars, laughter drifting through the fields, and the weight of his trust began to crumble. As he made his way to the cafe where they once shared countless moments, Jack felt a tempest of conflicting emotions raging inside him. Anger bubbled against the persistent warmth of hope. He longed for connection, but dread gnawed at his insides. What could she possibly want after all this time? Was she finally ready to talk about the years of silence? Or was this merely another chance to sharpen old wounds? Walking through the cafe door felt like stepping onto unfamiliar ground. The walls, once adorned with laughter, now loomed like silent sentinels. He spotted Amanda at a table, her fingers nervously twisting a napkin. Her gaze was distant, far away from the little girl who used to run barefoot in the fields, chasing sunsets. His chest tightened as he sat down, hoping for a chance to bridge the chasm that had formed between them. They exchanged pleasantries that held no warmth, simple words that felt heavy and hollow. But it wasn't long before the inevitable truth spilled from her lips, the devastating confession that she had sold the ranch for $3 million. His world tilted on its axis, disbelief coiling around him like a snake. It was more than just land. It was a testament to his life's work, to generations of toil and sacrifice. He felt a chasm open beneath him, swallowing any resolve he had left. Jack stared at the $16,000 she thrust toward him like a payment for a ticket to nowhere. A fresh start for them both, she called it, and that word echoed painfully in his mind. It wasn't a start. It was an extinguishing of everything he held dear. The ranch had been their connection, a symbol of the love and effort that marked their family history. How could she have discarded it so easily? Anguish morphed into confusion, leaving him stripped bare before her. He wanted to scream, to shake her and demand answers, yet a part of him hesitated. Doubt clawed at his insides. What had driven her to this? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But inside Jack's mind, the storm was far from calmed. He grappled with feelings of betrayal and an aching love for the daughter he had raised. Memories of his father's words about love and loyalty echoed but rang desolate now. Jack's resolve hardened. He would uncover the reason behind Amanda's choices. He had to understand why she had chosen a fleeting fortune over their family's history, a legacy that shaped his very being. As he navigated their shared past, cracks formed where he once found solace. Each revelation about the secrets Amanda had concealed turned the truth into whispers that spiraled into chaos. Just as he began to comprehend the forces that drove them apart, a new passion ignited within him, a commitment to environmental sustainability that promised a future beyond the confines of his heartbreak. Amidst this awakening, an unexpected message from Amanda landed in his inbox, echoing her own struggles and aspirations in a world swirling with ambition. The walls that had seemingly cemented their estrangement began to tremble, yet the weight of unspoken truths continued to press down. Jack looked into her eyes once more, searching desperately for the connection they once shared. The flicker of understanding and love seemed so close, yet felt forever out of reach. Would he be able to let go of the past that consumed him, or would it swallow them both whole? Jack sat in the cafe, the internal cacophony drowning out the chatter around him. He stared at Amanda, her face a tapestry of anxiety and determination. This was not simply a meeting, it was a reckoning. "What did you expect me to do?" Amanda's voice trembled slightly, as if her unyielding resolve was beginning to crack. "The ranch was draining us, financially and emotionally. I needed to move forward." Her words stung as if she had jabbed him with a knife. It was the place where he dedicated his life, poured his heart into the soil, and nurtured dreams that felt far too fragile now. Draining? He felt the bitterness rise in his throat. "It was everything we had, everything I worked for, Amanda." "We were both living in the past, Dad," she shot back, her eyes flashing. "That place was just," she faltered, swallowing hard, "it was just a memory." He withdrew slightly at her words. Memories had been all he had clung to during the years of silence. "Then let's create new ones," he suggested, his hands trembling with uncertainty. It was the first time he could see a glimmer of hope flickering between them. Despite the pain, he sensed an opportunity. But could he truly let go of his past while opening the door to a potential future? Days turned into an ongoing dialogue, each conversation peeling back the layers of a relationship tangled in misunderstanding. Jack discovered that Amanda had dreams beyond the horizon of the ranch. She was passionate about art and social change. Even though her maturity frightened him, he felt a longing to connect with her again. That night, alone in his dimly lit living room, Jack reflected on Amanda's boldness. What if, instead of clinging to the remnants of his past, he embraced new experiences? The thought both excited and terrified him. He no longer recognized himself, but perhaps it was a chance for evolution. The rising sun bathed the ranch in a golden hue, yet it felt different. Seated on the porch, he stared at the horizon, thinking about those moments when isolation had buried him alive and paralyzed his capacity to grow. He decided to start small. If Amanda could dream big, then he too could redefine what the future held for him. He pulled out a pad of paper and began to sketch ideas. He could repurpose the old barn into a community space, a venue for workshops on conservation and sustainable farming practices. It would not only revive the land, but could become a beacon of hope, fostering connections between those looking for guidance and knowledge. He realized that this was more than about himself. It was about giving back and reclaiming a part of himself he never acknowledged he had the capability to evolve. Jack felt emboldened by his newfound mission. No longer did he view the past as a burden. Instead, it was a reference point, an anchor to ground him as he pursued this new path. He took a deep breath, staring out into the expanse of open land, which, although once a symbol of loss, now began to embody potential. Yet with the resolve came a swirling anxiety, a question haunting him. How would Amanda respond to his ideas? Could they collaborate to intertwine their dreams? The thought of facing her again conjured both excitement and fear. The once silent chasm laid between them had begun to narrow, but would his aspirations align with hers, or would another rift emerge? That night, he drafted a message proposing to meet, a kindred spirit moment, a chance to share both stories and dreams. Now the real challenge loomed ahead. What would their next steps be together? And would the past still be a ghost hovering over their futures? Like a door creaking open, every inch revealed the endless possibilities of reinvention, yet it remained uncertain. As he pressed send, he felt a mixture of dread and anticipation spiraling within him. Would this act of faith lead to a rebirth, or would it reaffirm the fracture that had once seemed insurmountable? The answers lingered just out of reach, leaving him poised on the brink of transformative change, still wondering about the heavy silence that once cloaked their lives. Jack paced the worn floorboards of the barn, the solitude heavy with the weight of possibilities. He replayed his message to Amanda in his mind, a myriad of scenarios swirling around like autumn leaves in a gusty wind. Would she see the vision he had begun to grasp, or would she dismiss it as another futile attempt to cling to the past? A sense of dread wrapped around him, but he also felt the slow burn of resolve. He inhaled deeply, taking in the familiar sense of hay and wood. The barn had stood witness to generations of dreams, and now, poised on the brink of his own transformation, it felt like an empty canvas yearning for new stories. His phone buzzed, yanking him from his reverie. It was Amanda. His heart raced at the sight of her name. He read the message. She was willing to meet, eager even. But beneath her enthusiasm lay a hint of apprehension that mirrored his own. This was yet another turning point, and he needed to be prepared for an honest discussion. As the hour approached, Jack set the table in the barn, laying out a simple lunch, fresh bread, cheese, and some homemade pickles. The act grounded him. Each preparation executed with care, he blocked out the nagging doubts that crept in with every tick of the clock. This was a chance to transition the narrative, to amend mistakes made through years of silence. It was about accountability, both to himself and to Amanda. When she arrived, her vibrant spirit lit the space, but he noticed the slight hitch in her step, the way her smile faltered for just a moment. He welcomed her inside, their surroundings thick with unspoken words. The air buzzed with potential energy, and Jack sensed they were both on the precipice of something monumental. "Thanks for meeting me," Amanda began, her fingers fidgeting as she took a seat at the table. "I got your message about the barn." Her gaze drifted to the walls adorned with remnants of old tools and memories clawed from the depths of their shared past. Jack swallowed hard, his heart pounding against his chest. "I know we have a lot of things we need to work through, but I think we have an opportunity here, Amanda. We can make this a place for growth, for ourselves and for others." His conviction surprised him, but he pressed on. "Imagine turning this barn into a community workshop. We could host classes that encourage sustainable farming practices, teach art, or just provide a haven for people trying to reconnect with the land." Amanda's eyes lit up for the briefest moment before a shadow flickered across her features. "It sounds great, Dad, really, but it's not just about what we could do here." There it was, the chasm of their past surfacing. "You have to understand, I might want to go in a different direction now. Art is my passion." Jack's heart sank, but he felt a surge of determination. "Then let's find a way to merge our passions. This could be a collaborative endeavor. I can't take away your vision. I just want us to work together to create a space that nurtures both our dreams." For a heartbeat, Amanda seemed to grapple with his proposition. "But what if we fail? What if this place just becomes another reminder of what we lost?" "Maybe failing is part of the process." The words slipped out before he could guard them, but their truth rang clear. What if we can't be defined by our losses? Isn't that the very lesson we've learned? I want to build something new with you. Silence enveloped them, thick and palpable. Jack ruminated on the weight of that moment. He wasn't just pitching an idea, he was bearing his vulnerabilities. Each breath felt heavy with shared hopes and fears. Suddenly, Amanda leaned forward. "You mean you'd be willing to embrace what lies ahead, even if it looks different from what we envisioned at the ranch?" He nodded, feeling the lingering pulse of possibility. Their connection had the potential to morph into something greater, woven from the fabric of their pain and aspirations. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of a breakthrough. But what would it take to solidify this fragile bond? As Amanda continued to mull over his idea, he sensed more than words passing between them. It was a raw emotional alignment, both thrilling and terrifying. Just then, the barn door creaked open slightly. Startled, Jack turned, the air suddenly charged with a sense of urgency. Someone stood outside, obscured by the light spilling through the opening. As Amanda glanced towards the door, Jack felt a surge of instinct. The moment had shifted in tone, casting a shadow over their hopeful exchange. The past wasn't finished with them yet. "Who's there?" he called out, uncertainty creeping back into his mind. Would they be greeted by a chance for healing, or by a harbinger of deeper conflict? Jack held his breath as the silhouette at the door shifted, revealing the unmistakable profile of someone he hoped he'd never have to face again. The tension in the air wrapped around him like a tightrope, fragile and ready to snap. His heart raced with confusion and anger. "Elliot," he managed to say, the name feeling like a lead weight on his tongue, as if the air had been stolen from his lungs. Jack's mind whirled. How had Elliot come to be here? Had he come to gloat, or was he simply seeking trouble? The questions danced through his mind, a cacophony of dread. Elliot strode into the barn, a broad grin plastered across his face, but there was an edge to his demeanor that uneasy Jack instantly recognized. "What a charming little setup you've got here," he exclaimed, as if the decor was a trivial matter. His eyes flitted between Jack and Amanda, and for a second Jack could see the slightest trace of doubt muddling the cheerfulness. It was almost satisfying. "Why are you here?" Jack's voice was louder than intended, his instincts overriding his sense of politeness. He needed Elliot to know in no uncertain terms that he was not welcome. Amanda shifted in her chair, her earlier enthusiasm dimming. "Dad, maybe we could just—" "Let him speak," Jack interrupted, locked in a gaze with Elliot, who wore that infuriating grin like a mask. "Ah, the prodigal daughter." "Nice to see you, Amanda." He forced an exaggerated joviality that rang hollow against the backdrop of their fractured history. His appearance sent ripples through Jack's plan, a stark reminder of old, painful negotiations. This was the guy who once thought manipulation was a form of negotiation, an opportunist, a personality that Jack had prided himself on having cut out of his life. "Cut the small talk. Just get to the point," Jack said. Elliot's smile faded as he leveled a gaze at Jack, the light in his eyes flickering into something more calculating. "Right you are. I came to discuss the barn, or rather, what it represents now that the ranch has been sold." Jack felt a stab of betrayal. The words struck him with an unexpected force. "What do you mean, sold?" "The details are murky," Elliot said, an infuriating nonchalance in his voice. "But you must be aware that Amanda made a choice, and I'm sure you're aware of how these transactions can go when emotions, nostalgia, and poor decisions all roll into one." "Don't you dare put this on her," Jack erupted, the sound echoing off the barn walls. He could feel fury coursing through him, directly at Elliot, and the memories flooding back of when his home had felt more like a battleground than a sanctuary. Amanda's soft voice broke through the tempest. "I made a decision to move forward, Dad. You need to know that it was for us, to give us a chance to grow." Her defiance pierced through his anger like an arrow, and suddenly Jack felt the heavy pressure of realization resting on his shoulders. This was more than about the barn or plans to revive their dreams. It was a reflection of their paths diverging, the ghosts of their past coiling around their dialogue, reaffirming what lay ahead. "What do you propose, Elliot?" Jack demanded, his voice shaky but resolute. Elliot shrugged, a practiced move meant to present casual indifference while also conveying inevitability. "I think you know what I want. The barn, just like the ranch, holds value. You can either play nice, or it might be advantageous to let it go again. That struck a nerve. Jack felt the blood rush from his head to his fingertips, the justification simmering within him, conflicting against the fear of being trapped once more. Not this time, Jack replied quietly, the steely resolve taking root. He wasn't going to back down. The bitterness of the past had left scars that now fueled his determination. In that moment, amid the chaos brought on by Elliot's presence, Jack understood there was no turning back. This was a pivotal point. It could either splinter their fragile attempt at a new beginning or forge a deeper connection in the face of adversity. "What do you propose, Elliot?" Jack demanded, his voice shaky but resolute. Elliot shrugged, a practiced move meant to present casual indifference while also conveying inevitability. "I think you know what I want. The barn, just like the ranch, holds value. You can either play nice, or it might be advantageous to let it go again." That struck a nerve. Jack felt the blood rush from his head to his fingertips, the justification simmering within him, conflicting against the fear of being trapped once more. "Not this time," Jack replied quietly, the steely resolve taking root. He wasn't going to back down. The bitterness of the past had left scars that now fueled his determination. In that moment, amid the chaos brought on by Elliot's presence, Jack understood there was no turning back. This was a pivotal point. It could either splinter their fragile attempt at a new beginning or forge a deeper connection in the face of adversity. Amanda's hand found his, grounding him to the present, anchoring him through the turmoil. Just then, a loud crack echoed outside, as if the very barn were signaling the tension within. Jack realized the time had come to confront not just Elliot, but everything that had haunted him about his past decisions, including his relationship with Amanda. There was too much at stake now. "Let's talk about all this," Jack said, laying bare his voice with sincerity and urgency. "No more games. Let's finalize it here." As uncertainty loomed in the air, Jack didn't know what would come of this meeting, but one thing was clear: a reckoning was upon them, demanding courage he had yet to discover. Now the question remained, would they rise from the ashes of their past, or would they be consumed by the flames? Jack squared his shoulders, determination crystallizing within. He looked Elliot squarely in the eye, feeling each tick of his pulse merge with the hammering of his heart. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. He was in the arena now, wrestling with the specter of his old self, one that had always sought approval rather than fostering his own confidence. "You think the barn's worth enough to play these games?" Jack asked, his voice steady. "What you don't understand is that I won't let you take this from me again. It's more than timber and nails. It represents a chance to build a different future." Elliot raised an eyebrow, a challenging smirk remaining, but the glint of unease flickered beneath. This time, Jack's voice was not that of a boy who feared getting played. It was the voice of a man who had confronted losses before and emerged with scars he had learned to understand. "I came here for more than just business," Elliot replied smoothly. "There are feelings involved. You remember those, don't you? Your emotions are just as vulnerable as this barn, easily toppled." "Vulnerable but not broken," Jack shot back. The threat of frustration turned into an unexpected threat of empowerment. He recalled sleepless nights spent strategizing, crafting plans to rebuild. Suddenly, he felt more confident, more aware that he was no longer a pawn in Elliot's game. Jack felt the warmth of Amanda's hand in his as he stepped closer to Elliot, grounding him. "What will it take?" he asked, a tactical shift in conversation. "This barn has meaning. It can't just vanish under the weight of your ambitions." Elliot shifted, taken aback momentarily, before surging forward with his manipulation tactics. Emotions won't cut it in a negotiation, Jack. Money does. Get on board with the real world I've been navigating. You think you can just hold on to that old shack for sentiment's sake? Jack inhaled deeply, navigating the dark waters of old emotions, rising above it. Don't underestimate the true value one can find in places like these, he said, gesturing to the barn around them. I can turn this into something valuable, with or without you. The world is changing, and so have I. Watching Elliot's mask slip momentarily, Jack found a surge of strength. He was confronting an old adversary, yes, but also an older version of himself, one that had allowed fear to dictate choices. That version was gone. "Do you believe you hold the strings?" Jack pressed, his voice rising. "You don't. I've spent too long bluffing my way through, afraid and naive, but this is different. This time, I will take charge. What I decide today will shape tomorrow, not just for me, but for Amanda." "Tomorrow?" Elliot sneered, laughter laced with derision. "What a quaint notion. You genuinely think you hold the power?" "I will. Today starts my reclamation, not just of the barn, but of my life," Jack asserted, sharpening his focus. A growing awareness washed over him. He had spent years allowing Elliot's presence to linger over his plans, but his daughter deserved better. Amidst the battle, he was beginning to realize that the stakes were beyond just the barn. It was about self-affirmation, building an identity founded on purpose, something he had evaded. "Tell me, Elliot, can you handle honesty?" Jack marveled aloud. "This whole place holds promises, and I have no intention of allowing you to suffocate them, whether through dismissal or encroachment." Elliot stood silent for a moment, processing, but Jack wasn't waiting for his approval. Turning to Amanda, he saw her eyes full of hope and anticipation. "What I want is a place where we can thrive, where the past informs our grain but doesn't dictate our harvest. So let's create the environment where we can both flourish." As tension crackled in the air, Jack felt the looming nexus of shifting dynamics within him. "Let's talk numbers then," Elliot finally relented, his expression less solid than before, revealing the cracks in his confidence. Before the conversation could escalate further, a distant rumble echoed through the barn, the sound of thunder swelling in the distance, dark clouds closing in. Jack felt a shiver at the impending storm, but this time it wasn't a storm that he feared. It was the climate of change. Jack's resolve was transforming, and even amidst the uncertainty, the sense of genuine strength was becoming palpable. "Let's draft a plan," Jack said, confidence radiating outward. "I'll show you what a meaningful proposal looks like, and when this is over, we'll no longer be at the mercy of our past." As the barn creaked softly under the weight of history, Jack could sense that something profound was shifting. What emerged from their discussions could define more than just their next steps. It had the potential to liberate him from the burdens that had enslaved him for too long. But still, looming questions hung in the air. With a plan in motion and courage constantly tested, Jack wondered what long-buried resentments might resurface. What old wounds might yet reopen in his quest for growth? The confrontation was far from over, and he couldn't shake the feeling that darker challenges awaited him on the horizon. Jack's resolve was transforming, and even amidst the uncertainty, the sense of genuine strength was becoming palpable. "Let's draft a plan," Jack said, confidence radiating outward. "I'll show you what a meaningful proposal looks like, and when this is over, we'll no longer be at the mercy of our past." As the barn creaked softly under the weight of history, Jack could sense that something profound was shifting. What emerged from their discussions could define more than just their next steps. It had the potential to liberate him from the burdens that had enslaved him for too long. But still, looming questions hung in the air. With a plan in motion and courage constantly tested, Jack wondered what long-buried resentments might resurface. What old wounds might yet reopen in his quest for growth? The confrontation was far from over, and he couldn't shake the feeling that darker challenges awaited him on the horizon. Elliot leaned against the weathered beam, his smirk absent, replaced by an analytical gaze. Jack sensed the shift in the air. The storm outside wasn't the only threat brewing. He couldn't afford to underestimate Elliot's potential to turn the conversation back into an advantage for himself. But the realization was dawning on Jack that emotions weren't his enemy. They were his allies now, catalyzing a transformation within. Numbers, Jack reiterated, focusing on the imperatives he had outlined. If this is to be a legitimate deal, we need a framework that respects what this barn truly represents. Not just dollars and cents, but the opportunity for growth. He felt Amanda's hand squeeze his again, igniting a warmth that wrapped him in comfort and courage. The stakes weren't just about the barn anymore. They were tied to the legacy he hoped to build, a narrative that would not just appease his old self, but nurture the family he envisioned with Amanda. "Let's put a number on that emotional value, shall we?" Elliot countered, regaining his footing as he straightened up. "How much do you think nostalgia is worth in today's market? Sentiment can't be transferred to a ledger." Jack's thoughts raced, processing subtle digs wrapped in business terms. Was this a play to undermine his confidence? If so, it wouldn't work. How about we decide on a figure that reflects future potential too, something realistic? Elliot chuckled, but there was no mirth in it. Realistic? His face was a mask of condescension. You're stepping into a world where dreams are nice, but cold, hard cash is king. How do you plan to bridge the gap between your dreams and my reality? Jack felt the temperature rise inside him. By building a plan that succeeds not just for me, but for the both of us, assuming you're willing to see beyond your immediate advantage. Suddenly, silence enveloped them, broken only by the ominous rumble of thunder. Jack could feel Elliot wavering. The tide might be turning, but it hinged on his ability not just to respond, but to anticipate. He focused on specifics, allowing his ideas to crystallize. "I propose a fair investment, not just cash on the table, but also leveraging my skills in rebuilding and revitalizing this space. If I can elevate its value through meaningful updates, wouldn't that benefit both of us? I'll do the heavy lifting. It's worth its weight in gold." Elliot's face betrayed a battle between skepticism and intrigue. It was a glimmer of opportunity. Jack sensed he was on thin ice, but skimming the surface of breakthrough. "What skill sets do you bring to this endeavor?" Elliot inquired, genuine curiosity creeping in. Jack paused, contemplating how best to frame his experience without sounding defensive. Years of managing properties, investing in renovations, identifying market needs. This barn isn't merely bricks. It can become a vital community space. He breathed deeply, pulling from stories of challenges he faced, the resolve he fortified over sleepless nights. "I've navigated failures and learned resilience. This time, it's about creating something lasting, a venture with purpose." "But who will believe in it?" Elliot probed, a hint of irritation in his tone. "Believe in it?" Jack echoed, forcing himself to meet Elliot's gaze steadily, inviting the tension to build. "I have Amanda. She's my foundation. Anything I create here will offer her a future that extends beyond my own limits. That's powerful." Elliot's eyes narrowed, analyzing the tension between Jack's defiance and passion. "So, not just a barn, then. We're looking at a whole vision for the future." Jack nodded, emboldened by his declaration. "Exactly. A future that honors the past but isn't shackled by it. If we can agree on the framework, I'll present financial forecasts, feedback from market studies, real projections. Projections are no match for the stakes on the table, Jack, Elliot retorted, his superiority creeping back in. I'm still calling the shots here. Before Jack could respond, a crashing clap of thunder reverberated through the barn, startling them both. Jack's heart pounded, the awareness of vulnerability flooding back. Maybe I'm not supposed to be the one in charge. Maybe this is about something else, he admitted, more to himself than to Elliot. What's that supposed to mean? Elliot seemed genuinely intrigued now. It means I'm learning to stand tall amidst chaos, Jack declared, louder than he intended. That power isn't defined merely by controlling it, but understanding it. It's about mutual respect. I won't let fear dictate my choices, not again. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation. Each man wrestled with the overwhelming current of their emotions, one seeking dominance, the other seeking clarity. Jack recognized the confrontation wasn't just a negotiation for the barn. It was a battle for self-definition, a public test of his emerging self. As the storm thundered on outside, Jack felt galvanized by newfound resolve. He was navigating uncharted territory, but this time he wouldn't allow distractions to cloud his vision. Clarity appeared close, yet still out of reach. But as Elliot's calculating smile returned, Jack's unease flared again. What defenses would he need to raise, and at what costs? The real battle seemed just on the horizon, and he still needed to uncover the aspects of Elliot that could re-emerge and challenge him. What truths lay hidden behind Elliot's facade? Would they disrupt Jack's journey towards self-affirmation or further propel him into the growth he craved? Jack's resolve hardened as he stood across from Elliot, the air thick with their unspoken conflict. Every rebellious beat of his heart reminded him this was more than a transaction. It was a manifestation of his growth, a litmus test for the man he was becoming. For the first time, he truly understood what was at stake, his dreams, his partnership with Amanda, and the foundations of a legacy that had long been obscured by his own hesitations. "Why do you keep making it personal?" Elliot sneered, fanning the flames of tension. "You think this is about you alone? This is business, Jack, clean and clinical. If you can't separate the two, you'll lose." Jack tightened his grip on the plans he had drafted. "Maybe that's exactly where you're wrong," he shot back, suddenly aware of the fresh clarity he held. "You see, I've spent years believing my worth was dictated solely by the bottom line, my financial outcomes, my business successes. But this isn't just about numbers for me. If I treat it like a mere transaction, I'll never truly invest in what it can become." Elliot leaned back against the beam, a thoughtful expression creeping onto his face. Jack seized the moment, stepping closer, forcing Elliot to reckon with his conviction. "This barn, this place we're talking about, it has stories, histories woven into its very structure. By entering into this deal, we're not merely facilitating an exchange, we're creating a future that can resonate with people and elevate them." Elliot's brow furrowed slightly. For the first time, Jack detected a crack in his facade. That small shift fueled Jack's determination. "And I can build that future. I can bring people here to this barn, give them a space to breathe life into their own stories. But I need you to see beyond immediate profits. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm proposing a partnership based on vision." "I'm still not convinced," Elliot challenged, crossing his arms defiantly. "What guarantees do you have? What if your vision shatters into dust?" Jack took a deep breath, suppressing the urgency to lash out in frustration. Instead, he steadied his voice, collecting his thoughts. "Life is uncertain, Elliot. Every gamble, every deal comes steeped in risk. But I've learned this year that trying to control every outcome stifles growth and inhibits progress. True success comes from navigating risks with competence and transparency. This barn isn't just bricks and mortar to me. It's a reflection of everything I aspire to be. How very poetic, Elliot remarked dryly, but Jack detected a subtle shift in his tone. I'm not trying to charm you, Jack replied, no longer veiling his vulnerability. I'm laying myself bare because I'm ready to align my ambitions with reality, to create something that can withstand the storm, both inside and outside. For too long, I allowed fear to define me. Now I have a clarity that sharpens my purpose. Jack's words lingered in the charged air, and he saw the gears turning in Elliot's mind. A part of him wondered if he could tap deeper into Elliot's motivations. What if he could shift this opponent into an ally? Was it possible that beneath Elliot's impenetrable exterior lay a shared desire for innovation and growth? The rhythm of the rain became a steady reminder that the chaos of their conversation mirrored the world outside. "All right," Elliot finally uttered after a tense silence. "Let's say I entertain your vision. What would the next steps look like?" Jack felt a rush of adrenaline. This was the opportunity he had fought for. "First, I'll lay out a proposal detailing my plans for the barn's revival, supported by market analyses, real projections. But I'll also incorporate feedback from community members, ensuring their input shapes this project. It's not just business, it's about creating a shared sense of ownership." A flicker of intrigue lay in Elliot's narrowed gaze. "And if the community doesn't respond, if they reject your vision?" Jack leaned forward, drawing strength from the uncharted path ahead. "Then I'll adapt. That's the beauty of transformation. Growth requires flexibility, and I'm committed to absorbing whatever lessons come my way. But right now, I see potential beyond despair. It's time for a new narrative." Elliot's demeanor shifted, the walls around him appearing less rigid. There was momentum in the conversation, a chance at collaboration rather than competition. But doubt lingered. How long before Elliot unleashed the edges of his previous contempt? What would it take to bind their paths into something collaborative? Jack felt the power of the moment shift, but uncertainty swirled within him. Would this newfound understanding endure? A tempest loomed on the horizon, but his resolve soared. He had engaged in a deeper negotiation, risking clarity in hopes of building genuine connection, and it felt uncertain yet right. He glanced outside, the storm still raging, but as he transitioned back to Elliot, the dawning realization hit. This might just be the first step toward more than he could currently imagine. But would the alliance be enough to breach the chasm of Elliot's past dealings, or would hidden rivalries emerge, making the pathway ahead a swirl of chaos? As the thunder rolled again, Jack remained teetering between excitement and apprehension, aware that the next move could either solidify their burgeoning connection or plunge them back into turmoil. Jack took a deep breath, his heart racing as he felt the weight of the moment settle over him. The prospect of negotiating with Elliot had ignited a fire within him, and it burned brighter now more than ever. Gone was the timid man who allowed fear and uncertainty to dictate his choices. This was a new chapter where Jack had the potential to forge something transformative. Yet, with Elliot's approval came a pressing need for clarity and a concrete plan. "Let's not waste this opportunity," he said firmly. "I'll have a proposal ready within the next few days. It won't just outline the financials, but my vision step by step." Elliot raised an eyebrow, skepticism lingering in the corners of his mouth. "Your vision, or what you hope people want to hear?" Jack met his gaze, a flicker of defiance igniting. "I don't want to just have a vision. I want to embody it, to live it every day." He could almost feel Elliot evaluate him, could hear the gears in his mind shifting, assessing the authenticity in Jack's stance. Was it just bravado? Would this determination withstand the inevitable obstacles waiting for him? Elliot, Jack continued, forcing the words out with determination that felt almost like a prayer. I'm ready to prove that this barn can be the heart of something bigger than either of us. Still sounds like a gamble to me, Elliot countered, arms crossed. Vision doesn't pay bills. I know, Jack admitted, fighting the tendrils of doubt creeping into his mind. But what if it's not just about the money? What if it becomes an economic engine for the community? I want to reimagine this place as a sanctuary, a hub for creativity and collaboration, all while generating revenue in ways we can't even foresee. Elliot's eyes flickered with interest, but the skepticism remained. Jack recognized that this was the beginning, not merely a dialogue, but a call to arms for his ambitions. Yet self-doubt gnawed at him. What if he was overestimating his capacity? What if, in attempting to prove himself, he only set himself up for failure? You say you want this to be something more, Elliot said carefully. But are you ready to face the resistance, not just from me, but from the market, from the community? The question pierced Jack's thoughts. Could he truly handle all that? He could feel the uncertainty curling around him, but with every breath he remembered his resolve, sharper now than ever. I'll take the resistance. I'll listen and adapt, he stated, voice steady. The last thing I want is to build something the people don't want or need. Every visionary meets resistance. It's how you respond that defines whether you're a dreamer or a doer, Elliot retorted, eyeing him. The challenge hung thick in the air, but Jack felt invigorated, as if he could finally see his path emerging through the storm. I get that. This barn represents more than profit margins or forecasts. It embodies my fresh start, a commitment to building something lasting. If I can look myself in the mirror every day and know I'm working on a purpose, I'll consider that a success. Elliot took a moment, seemingly weighing his words. Jack felt his heart pounding as he dared to hope. Fine, Elliot finally said. Draft your proposal. I'll give you a chance to show me what you've got. But be warned, I won't hold back when it comes to evaluation. If you want my support, you'll have to convince me. Thank you, Jack replied, feeling a tremor of exhilaration through his body. Yet beneath that excitement lay an undercurrent of fear. What if he really couldn't convince Elliot? What if his ideas fell flat? As the conversation shifted back to logistics, Jack's determination surged. He had the chance to prove himself, not only to Elliot, but to his own doubting heart. His mind raced with ideas, each one laced with the urgency to assemble a proposal that would reflect his vision and his commitment. Even as he visualized the potential challenges ahead, a question loomed larger with each thought. Would it be enough to silence the voices of those who had conditioned him to think small? He left the barn that afternoon, the weather finally beginning to clear, but the horizon held tension still. As he walked away, a determined seed had been planted within him. Perhaps the outcome depended less on external validation and more on his belief in himself. But just as he was about to embrace this newfound confidence, a chilling thought gripped him. If Elliot had his own agenda, would Jack be prepared for the challenge? Would he falter again, or had he truly evolved into a man ready to take on the complexities of his ambitions? The answers were still unknown, but for the first time, Jack felt ready to fight for them. The next morning, Jack awoke early, the sun casting a golden hue across the barn's wooden beams. He felt an invigorating sense of purpose coursing through his veins. The doubt from the day before had receded, replaced by a firm resolve to transform the barn into something exceptional. As he rose from bed, he glanced at the old photo hanging on the wall. It showed him as a boy, standing inside the same barn, laughing freely. How had he allowed that joy to be overshadowed by fear? This was his chance to reclaim that spirit. He grabbed a notebook and a pen, sitting at the small kitchen table, and began outlining his proposal with fierce determination. The words flowed as he sketched his vision. He envisioned the barn hosting workshops, craft fairs, and creative retreats, spaces where artisans could thrive without the fear of commercial pressures. It was more than just a venue, it was a sanctuary. And yet, beneath his fervor lay a tightening knot in his stomach. Was he ready to navigate the bureaucracy and financial intricacies involved in bringing such a vision to life? Jack flipped to the next page to write down the necessary steps. He paused, irritation bubbling to the surface. Why had he never acknowledged his own capabilities? Why did he feel less? To counter that anger, he wrote, "Prioritize self-belief," as if it were his battle cry. He moved through the day with a sense of direction, losing track of time as his dreams collided with the reality of planning. His lists grew longer, branding ideas, potential collaborators, feasibility studies. He even sketched out a budget, testing his knowledge in ways he had never ventured before. Each calculation felt like an unlocking of hidden potential. The numbers were far more than just figures. They represented a tangible depiction of his hopes, aspirations, and hard work. Yet, as Jack progressed, a flicker of anxiety returned. He could almost hear Elliot's razor-sharp critiques in his head, the weight of scrutiny pressing on him again. How did he plan to justify the expenses? How to convince stakeholders and influencers that this venture was worthwhile? He had spent years second-guessing himself. Could he withstand future criticisms? No, he pushed back against those thoughts, resolving to turn this into a learning experience. He penned, "Embrace constructive feedback" prominently in his notebook. Jack allowed himself to envision a conversation with Elliot that resonated with collaboration rather than confrontation. Each of Elliot's skeptical questions transformed into a brainstorming opportunity, drawing the two of them closer toward shared goals instead of a tug of war over differing visions. Later in the evening, as he ran through the proposal one last time, he felt a swell of pride. His hard work was palpable on the pages, the details cohesive, the goals targeted. It was a spark, igniting a confidence he didn't know he possessed. Yet still, a part of him hesitated. The thoughts swirled within. Could he rise to the challenge when the time came to present it to Elliot? Just then his phone buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. An unexpected message flashed on the screen from an old acquaintance eager to discuss something exciting. It was a moment of distraction, yet it felt like fate teasing him. What if this new opportunity could either enhance his project or distract him from his central goal? As he considered the implications, Jack faced a dilemma. Should he pivot his focus and explore this potential partnership, or double down on his current vision and refine it to perfection? He sighed, knowing the urgency of his choices reflected the necessity for growth. His grip tightened around the phone, the tug of opportunity pulling him in opposing directions. With the tension brewing, he sensed the vital importance of his next decision. In that moment of uncertainty, Jack finally understood. Each choice would shape not only his proposal, but ultimately the man he was destined to become. As he weighed his options, the ever-looming question persisted. Who would he be if he drew strength from both experiences? Would he emerge stronger, or would this dual path lead to fragmentation? The clock was ticking, and clarity was desperately needed. His heart raced as Jack made the connection. A transformation was brewing, and soon he would have to decide which direction to take. Would he step onto the stage of his ambitions, or sidestep into the familiar shadows of self-doubt? Days turned into weeks, and Jack's proposal for the barn was taking shape. With each passing day, his confidence grew, as did his determination to create something meaningful. He glimpsed moments of clarity within the storm of his thoughts, embracing the challenge ahead. His meetings with Amanda became more frequent, each deliberation uncovering layers of their merged hopes. She shared her artistic vision, injecting vibrancy into the plans, while inevitably stirring emotional dialogues about their past. Together, they scribbled down ideas that reflected their unique passions. The barn was slowly transforming in their minds, morphing into a beacon of creativity that would blend both their aspirations. On the eve of his meeting with Elliot, Jack polished the final proposal. His heart raced as he reviewed the meticulously constructed financial forecasts and creative layouts. It was more than a document. It was a testament to his rebirth, a manifestation of all he had learned through heartbreak and despair. This was a chance to prove he could embrace the complexities of partnership while remaining tethered to his own vision. That morning, the sun shone brightly, casting optimism over the stillness of the barn. As Jack approached Elliot's office, a nagging uncertainty curled in his stomach. What would happen when he unveiled his thoughts? Would Elliot disregard his efforts or support them with the newfound respect Jack hoped to cultivate? This was a turning point, a confrontation that demanded not only his claim to future, but a validation of his journey. "Jack, glad to see you," Elliot greeted with a level of cordiality that disarmed Jack's nerves. He felt empowered to express his vision without reservation. His conviction radiated in their conversation, making each word matter. "I appreciate you taking the time today," Jack began, buoyed by Amanda's encouragement the night before. "I've been working on the proposal you requested, and I hope it reflects the potential I see beyond mere numbers." Elliot inclined his head, his skepticism flickering around the corners of his mouth, but the absence of disdain sent a soft ripple of hope through Jack. "I've outlined not only the financial projections, but also how this initiative can serve the community and elevate both our interests," Jack continued, opening his presentation with a steadiness that surprised him. Each point he highlighted merged to outline a scenario where growth and collaboration could thrive. Elliot listened intently, the initial facade of indifference slowly melting away with the weight of Jack's passion. The proposal was thorough. It illuminated everything they could accomplish together. For the first time, Jack saw curiosity deepen in Elliot's eyes. "Interesting approach," Elliot remarked, leaning forward, his arms uncrossing. "You've certainly provided details here." "I know it's easy to view this as mere business," Jack replied, a fierce yearning driving his words. "But the space we redevelop here could breathe new life into the community, offering opportunities and strengthening connections. That's more valuable than any dollar figure." Jack felt a wave of vulnerability pass through him, exposed but invigorated. Where once he would have shied away, today he stood firmly in his conviction. Elliot's gaze pierced through Jack, his thoughts swirling. The tension hovered until finally Elliot shifted. "You've given this a lot of thought. Still, I'm concerned about market viability. How do you plan to ensure consistent turnout? Without viability, the risk becomes exponential." Jack took a breath as he articulated the strategic partnerships he envisioned, communities he could reach, and infrastructures that would draw crowds. With every word, the fear that had once gripped him released its hold as the shadows of uncertainty retreated. "I get that risks exist," Jack confessed, feeling the burden of the past slip away. "But I am ready to confront them. I've learned to embrace constructive feedback, and I'm prepared to pivot if necessary. This is about building momentum toward success together." For the first time, Jack felt a distinct shift in the room, a sense of alignment beyond mere transactional moves. "I can respect that willingness," Elliot responded, something behind his eyes glimmering as he leaned back slightly. "But how do your projections align with the community's needs?" "I intend to engage with community members directly," Jack replied, his voice steady. I want to hear their voices, understand their desires, and incorporate their perspectives into my plans. The goal is to turn this space into a hub of creativity and collaboration, one that resonates with the heartbeat of the town. When the conversation turned to specifics, Jack felt invigorated. He skillfully maneuvered through the questions, deepening the dialogue and knocking down barriers that would have previously intimidated him. The proposal had become an act of reclamation. This was not just about mediating a deal or defending his ideals. Jack stood poised, the determination within igniting in waves like flames against darkness. Suddenly, there was a shift. Jack caught it as subtly as he would catch a breeze. The way Elliot nodded, the way the corner of his mouth twitched into almost a smile. "We may have something to work with here, Jack," Elliot said, the tension in the air dissipating like remnants of a storm. "Let's see how this could unfold into a joint venture. I'm willing to negotiate the terms of this collaboration." Jack couldn't hide the exhilaration that coursed through him. Normally, this type of response could send him into the throes of anxiety. Yet here he was, embraced by the hope of a reconciled purpose that flickered in Elliot's demeanor. "Thank you," Jack replied, a breath of air escaping him, a blend of respect and relief. "I imagine this would require a formal agreement, and I'm open to discussing shared responsibilities regarding the venture's operational framework." "Yes, of course," Elliot affirmed. "Let's hash these details out and establish our foundational agreements." As they began to collate their thoughts, Jack felt a sense of grounding. He was engaged in a negotiation tethered to growth rather than fear. The barriers that had once speared his vision crumbled like dust before the reality of their collaboration. Later that day, Jack stepped back, surveying the barn as the day's sunlight filtered through the blinds. Each nook contained a flicker of promise, a tangible symbol of his transformation. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction wash over him. He had successfully navigated the complexity of the negotiation, constructing a solid foundation for their exciting new venture. Jack glanced at his phone and opened Amanda's text, a reminder that the journey was still shared. It pulsed with hope and connection. Together, they had grown through their trials, and now the barn would come to symbolize a shared ascent, not just of his path, but their shared legacies of dreams realized. The future shimmered before him like waves of uncharted ocean. There were challenges still to face, but Jack felt solid confidence and recognition for his own worth echo within with every heartbeat. This was definitely more than a second chance. This was the reclamation of an entire life, one where he stood boldly amid the world, embraced by growth he never thought possible. As he grasped the potential of what lay ahead, Jack knew one thing. He was ready to ride the waves of what came next. Now, the call to action couldn't be clearer. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire your journey of personal growth. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure this empowering message reaches even more people. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and embark on their journey towards empowerment. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to share.